It's time for Warriors Wrap-Up with John Dickinson. We'll bring you into the locker room and hear from Coach Kerr and the players, highlights from the game, and JD will take your calls. Warriors Wrap-Up starts now.
Yes, it does, as the Warriors get the win, 120-109 in Detroit. We welcome you in. Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. We'll hand out the phone number right off the top of the show, 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570, as the Warriors get the win, and a bounce-back win, and a win that I said on Twitter at the beginning of the night that I really thought the Warriors had to have. Healthy, everybody playing second of a back-to-back in Detroit, coming off of a loss, a young and albeit talented Pistons team with some size and some good young players are trying to figure out who fits and who doesn't as far as the future goes. Nobody said it was going to be easy, and at times it didn't look pretty for the Warriors in this game, but to me this was a game that the Dubs absolutely had to get to 6-2. Big difference between 6-2 and 5-3 as far as I'm concerned, when you know the next game to end the 4-game trip is going to be in Denver going up against the defending champs on Wednesday, and all of the travel all the way across the country and the trip that the Warriors had from Sacramento to Houston to New Orleans, back home, and then back to the middle of the country, Oklahoma City, and then up to Cleveland in the Midwest and Detroit, and then back through the mountains and Denver on Wednesday. To me, this is one that if you don't get, it's the most pivotal game of the entire trip. Now, Cleveland, I think, figures to be a good team with some size, tough matchup for the Warriors, and they got the better of the Dubs, who aren't going to win every single game, especially on the road, despite the hot start that the Warriors have been able to get off to on the road. But tonight's the game you got to get, and tonight's the game the Warriors last year twice didn't get against the Pistons. So when you're looking at ways that this Warriors team is going to be an improvement over the team that won 44 games a year ago, beating the Pistons twice this season, because they also lost to them at Chase Center, in addition to a game in the early part of the season last year on a road trip. That was, I think, even earlier in the season, end of October, the Warriors played one of their most uninspired games of the year in Detroit, and the Pistons beat them. Get this one. Handle your business. That right there should be how you view going from 44 to 46 wins. Just beat the Pistons twice. And the Warriors, again, while it wasn't always pretty, they found a way to get the job done. And a big one in front of the game in Denver on Wednesday night. Curry, his tear continues to begin the season. And I mean, there just isn't much you can say about Steph Curry and the way that he's played. Steph, first player in NBA history with at least 4 3-pointers in the first 8 games of an NBA season. He ends up going off tonight for 34, and he didn't just make 4 3-pointers. He made 7 3-pointers, which has been the norm for Steph Curry in a number of these games. So he plays in the second of a back-to-back. His tear continues. Chris Paul tonight, a significant contributor for the Warriors. Chris Paul has 29 assists and no turnovers in 4 games off the bench. Unbelievable. You look at what Chris Paul's been able to do, and Chris Paul scored the basketball tonight. The shot hasn't always been there, and tonight was about the Warriors' bench again, which has been a key for them to this point in the season. Tonight was about, I think, the fact that teams with size are not necessarily going to always give the Warriors problems. We saw at times teams with size will give the Warriors problems. The Cavs did last night, but the Pistons, a younger squad, should not necessarily give the Warriors as many problems as the Cavaliers did in the game last night. And the Warriors able to really be aggressive on the offensive glass in the game. 17 offensive rebounds for the Warriors, 26 second chance points. And the Warriors also dominated in the paint tonight. 52-32 Golden State in the paint. Again, not every team with size is going to bother the Warriors the way Cleveland did. And I mentioned the bench scoring for Golden State, 49-24, the advantage. And the advantage for the Warriors has been there in just about every game so far this season, as the Warriors now find themselves 6-2 overall through 8 games and 5-1 on the road here through 6 games, as the Warriors, beginning the season was 7 of the first 9 on the road, and they've made it through the first 8 at 6-2, which I think is exactly the record that you'd want to have if you're Golden State going into that 9th game and the 7th game on the road in Denver on Wednesday night. And now you can let it all hang in that game. First real showdown road game of the season. I guess maybe the game in Sacramento and their home opener, coming off of the series that those two teams played back in April, is probably a little mini showdown game. The Warriors handled their business in that one, and now you see how the Dubs get to stack up against another team that has some size in the defending champions, and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and all those guys. So Wednesday's a lot more fun, I feel like, to look forward to as far as where the Warriors stand when you're 6-2 as opposed to 5-3, and you're searching and you're maybe staring at 5-4, and you're maybe staring at 3 consecutive losses, and things are starting to look a little bit more maybe like last year. But tonight is another one of those wins, and I feel like there's been 3 of them to this point this season that show that this is a different team this year than it was last year. I think tonight's game, just based on the fact that the Warriors lost to the Pistons twice, I go back to the Oklahoma City game on Friday. Warriors win that game by a point. And last year, I don't think the Warriors win that game in OKC with as much as the Thunder were able to get off against Golden State offensively. And so I think, when you look at it, the game against Sacramento at home was another one that I think the Warriors probably don't win a year ago. Klay Thompson hits the big bucket. So all in all, I think you got to like where the Warriors are at 6-2. And I mentioned it last night on Warriors Wrap Up. Well, everybody's frustrated about the bigs and who's going to play and how does this team match up, and they don't have a lot of size. Made the point last night, and I think it's key to reiterate tonight. The tell was not going to be last night's game. The tell is, can you go second of a back-to-back against an inferior Pistons team and handle your business and figure out a way to win the game? And I don't really care if you win the game by 1 or if you win the game by 30, and the Warriors end up winning it by 11 at 120-109. Tonight was the kind of game that if it is going to be a different season, you can't have a slip-up against a Pistons team that now falls to 2-6 on the year. All right, 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson with you here as we'll keep things rolling into the 7 o'clock hour here on 95.7 The Game, as the Warriors now 6-2. And again, key contributions off the Warriors bench. How about Moses Moody with 3 steals in this game and a +8? Gary Payton II, again, playing down the stretch for defense. The Warriors have the ability to really put some defensive stoppers on the floor when they go with Draymond and Gary Payton II, along with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson at the end of games. Chris Paul's been a part of that at different points. Jonathan Kuminga's been a part of that at different points. But the Warriors, even on nights where some of these players off the bench are not perfect, they're still able to contribute toward winning at a high level. And I think Jonathan Kuminga is another example. Jonathan Kuminga for the 3rd straight game was awful in the first half. And we've come on and we've talked about it after the last 2, and we'll mention it tonight. But he got a little something going in the second half, and the Warriors needed it and was able to get to the free throw line. And you look at Kuminga, again, not a good game at all in 19 minutes, 2 of 8. But he got to the free throw line 8 times. He made 6 of them. He ended up scoring 10 points. And he was able to salvage what was a bad beginning into a semi-productive overall night, and somebody that on a night where he was not his best was still able to contribute toward winning. Dario Saric tonight, 12 points. Dario Saric in different points was an absolute savior for the Warriors in this game, including to close the 3rd quarter. Big buckets to keep the Warriors out in front. In fact, it looked like the Warriors were a sure bet to trail going to the 4th quarter, but Saric, couple of key baskets, key 3-point play at the end of the 3rd quarter for Golden State. The Warriors found themselves up 1 at the end of the 3rd quarter on a night which really was about the Pistons hitting everything early. Steph Curry going off, though, to have the Warriors hold a 31-26 lead at the end of quarter number 1 is Curry just awesome. Most points in a quarter this season, 16. He had in the 3rd quarter against Sacramento. He tied that in the 1st quarter tonight for Golden State And again, Steph with a 20-point half, fourth 20-point half for Steph. So Curry was keeping the Warriors right in the position that they wanted and needed to be. The Warriors up 56-48 at the break. Again, Curry and Klay Thompson, it was the Splash Brothers show really in the first half, and Chris Paul was along for the ride as well, as the Warriors did enough offensively to have that 8-point lead. And then third quarter, not the third quarter domination that the Warriors have had so far this season. Pistons get the better of the Dubs 34-27, but I mentioned the nice rebound for Golden State toward the end of the quarter as Dario Saric was able to hit a couple of buckets. And I think the key stretch in the game was when Curry went out late third, and the Warriors were basically able to play even at the end of that quarter and wind up going to the fourth quarter with the lead over the Pistons, and then it winds up being 37-27 in that fourth quarter. And Kuminga, that was when he came on a little bit down the stretch there, the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I thought Steve Kerr, a couple of great subs, getting Gary Payton II and Draymond Green back in the game for Golden State down the stretch, and then it was a little bit more of the offense-defense stuff down the stretch. But, the Warriors able to do enough on both ends to earn themselves a really nice victory, 120-109. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors now 6-2, as this is Warriors wrap-up here on 95.7 The Game. And the Warriors in Denver on Wednesday as they will look to close out this road trip. And Golden State then, a lot of home games coming up for the Dubs after that. 6 games consecutively at home. 62 assists and 6 turnovers on the season. I know Steve Kerr said in his post-game press conference that's absolutely insane. And Chris Paul, again, contributing to winning even when he's not necessarily making his three-point shot, although Chris Paul did make a couple of three-pointers tonight as he gets off the schneid a little bit, 2 for 3, and the Warriors needed Chris Paul's 17 points in 21 minutes. They cut the minutes down for CP3 in this one, second of a back-to-back. And I applaud the Warriors for this as well. I applaud the Warriors for veterans are going to play tonight. This is a game you need to get, and the veterans are going to play, and the veterans are going to fight through it. And there may be a game down the line where the Warriors choose to give some of the veterans a night off and go against the new NBA resting policy. But tonight was not going to be that night, because tonight the difference between being 6-2 and being 5-3 was significant. So tonight was a game worth chasing, and the Warriors were able to get it done. Tim Kawakami of The Athletic with this note, he had been tracking it. Curry came back in the game with the Warriors down 3 in the 8:44 mark in the fourth quarter, and it was 26-12 from the moment the Warriors were down at that point until the benches were cleared, 26-12. So Curry came back in the game, and everything kind of flips for the Warriors down the stretch in that one. All right, let's go ahead and pause quickly here, 888-957-9570, as we enter the 7 o'clock hour on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMC FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
All right, John Dickinson back here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors wrap up. Warriors 120, Pistons 109. Golden State now 6-2, keeping pace with those at the top of the Western Conference. In the early part of the season, you look at the teams with the best records. Denver, 6-1. Dallas off to a surprising, I think, 6-1 start when you look at the way, they weren't even a play-in tournament team, if you recall, tanked their way at the end of the year out of the play-in tournament to try and keep a draft pick. They are 6-1, though, off to a hot start. And the Warriors, I think you could make the case, with as many road games as they've played, and you just start looking at the top 5 or 6 records throughout the course of the league. And, Denver's 6-1, but they're 4-0 at home. Dallas is 6-1. They're 3-0 at home. The Warriors are 6-2, and they're 5-1 on the road. By far have played the most road games of any team in the league. And when you look at the Warriors being 11-30 on the road a year ago, I know they're getting away from last year and everything that was. But this is, I think, a big-time early season statement by the Warriors that this thing's going to be different than last year. And so I think the Warriors 6-2 in some ways is more legit than some of these other teams, or as legit as these top teams. Boston's won 3 road games out of 5. They're 5-0. Philly is 5-1, but they've played 4 of their first 6 on the home floor. And that's really, when you look at the top 5 records to this point, it's the Warriors right there with Dallas and Denver in the Western Conference. It's Boston and Philly to this point in the Eastern Conference, who are both really hot on 5-game winning streaks at this point. The Warriors obviously saw their 5-game winning streak ended in Cleveland last night before they get back to their winning ways tonight. We'll see what happens on Denver, in Denver, coming up on Wednesday night. Comcast Business Text Line, 510, chiming in here. I like how Chris Paul wasn't settling for bad three-point shots tonight. Yeah, only took 3 tonight, although it doesn't feel like a player is settling when he's knocking them down. And tonight, Chris Paul was able to knock down 2 of 3 from three-point range. And again, the Warriors needed it. The Warriors needed Chris Paul's scoring in this game tonight. They haven't always needed his scoring, but tonight the Warriors needed his scoring. 17 points in this one for Chris Paul off the bench. Klay Thompson had 17. Again, Steph Curry led the way with 34. And the Warriors have been able, for the most part, to survive offensively. The early part of this year was Steph being dominant and then others pitching in. And tonight it was really Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, super efficient from 2. How about this line from Klay Thompson tonight? 7 of 8 on 2s for Klay Thompson, 1 of 8 from 3. So the three-point shot wasn't clicking. Three-point shot wasn't clicking for the Warriors. They actually got outshot by the Pistons from 3, 13-12. But again, you're able to win the game because you dominate in the paint, 52-32, and then the second chance points for the Warriors, 26-10 advantage for Golden State in second chance points. Warriors just punched the Pistons in the mouth on the offensive glass to the tune of 17 offensive rebounds. So those extra possessions, those extra field goal attempts, Warriors had 17 extra field goal attempts tonight, and they made 8 of them. And that's where you wind up basically with the two teams shooting identical field goal percentages, but those extra possessions, those extra points in the paint off the second chance really allowed the Warriors to prevail and win on a night where they got beat at the free throw line and they got beat from behind the three-point line. But again, I think this is the kind of win that the good and the great teams figure out a way to get. So I think you have to give the Warriors a lot of credit for being able to do so. All right, let's roll on here as we get to our Extending the Three-Point Line, which is brought to you by West Coast Men's Health.
Curry will screen for Kuminga. Curry flashes out to the corner, double clutch, 3-ball, swish! Swish! Timeout, Detroit. Curry with a 3 in the right corner. It's a 10-0 push. Just like that.
Yeah, Tim Roy on the call. Steph Curry, one of his 7 3-point makes in 17 attempts. Curry was letting them fly from distance, but why the hell not? When you look at the way that he's started the season, Stephen Curry's been absolutely incredible over the course of this season. Again, second straight game and 4th time this season in 8 games he's hit 7 threes. He's hit 7 threes 4 times, and he's hit at least 4 in all 8 games. And I know ESPN Stats and Info had the nugget, the first player in NBA history to hit at least 4 3-pointers in each of the first 8 games of an NBA season. So Steph Curry, that 3-pointer is your Extending the Three-Point Line 3-pointer of the night, brought to you by West Coast Men's Health. Successfully treating men for ED and chronic pain. Visit westcoastmenshealth.com for more information. Your 3-pointer of the night. Again, Steph Curry always extending the 3-point line. All right, 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Wasn't all great for the Warriors tonight. And I'll just say this for Andrew Wiggins, because I know he's been the one player I think that stuck out among the starters and the guys that are going to play significant minutes. He's struggling to begin the year. Just 4 points tonight, only played 21 minutes in the game tonight. Steve Kerr using other options. I thought he didn't play tonight at all in the fourth quarter. Steve Kerr going basically with Jonathan Kuminga and Gary Payton II in Andrew Wiggins' spot. Wiggins is going to have to get going at some point. The one thing I will say, and look, I know a lot of people are not going to like to hear it, I think it's a good thing that Wiggins isn't playing well and the Warriors are 6-2. Now, he's going to have to play better because there's going to be times this year where Wiggins is going to have to be, I think, more of a carrier. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's a little bit banged up and some kind of injury that maybe hasn't been reported to this point this season. I don't know if maybe there's some personal things going on that are maybe weighing on Andrew Wiggins. Obviously, last year we know he took the time away due to the family matter and what was going on with his dad, and so, or at least what was reportedly going on with his dad. And so Wiggins is here. He's been present. He's been available, but he hadn't played well. And look, I think at times we do tend to make too much of a player who struggles at the beginning of a season because the numbers are just eye-popping right there out in front of you. The averages look bad. I think this happens in baseball a lot. You get a guy through the first couple weeks and he's hitting 090 and you're like, oh my God, like what's going on? So I think poor performances tend to stand out at the beginning of seasons, especially in the NBA and Major League Baseball, more to the point where you do need to use some scrutiny. But he's going to have to play better. And it absolutely is concerning that he's played so poorly and he's looked, I think, in so many games so lifeless to begin the year. It has been, the coasting Wiggins, I think, at different points. So I wonder if there's something going on, either a personal issue, don't know the answer to that, or a physical issue with Andrew Wiggins. But again, I tend to flip what has been a negative in terms of some of the poor performances into, hey, the Warriors are able to win without him right now, without him playing well. And so they're 6-2. He's going to have to get it going. But I think the beauty of being 6-2 when everything isn't rolling for you is you have the ability to be patient. And so I think at this point, again, assuming it isn't a physical issue, the Warriors can be patient. And the fact that Wiggins is able to show up and play every night is important because he does play a position where you can never have too many players, even if guys aren't playing well, with that body type and that skill set to match up with some of the other athletes in the NBA. So I think when you look at it top to bottom, it's definitely on the radar, but I don't think it's reached the point with the Warriors sitting at 6-2. I know people are throwing it out. They need to make some kind of a lineup change. Does something need to, is there an adjustment that needs to be made or anything like that? No, not when you're 6-2. And let's be honest, there's nobody on the Warriors bench right now at Wiggins' position that's playing well enough to where you're going to say you're going to make a lineup change. And so, Jonathan Kuminga hasn't exactly played well overall this season. Now, could you make the case he's played better than Wiggins? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But, and Kuminga certainly has come on in some second halves and helped this Warriors team. But he's been one of the worst players on the floor in some of the first halves of really each of the last three games. And I think you give Steve Kerr credit for sticking with Kuminga these last couple of games. And allowing him to find himself. I mean, nobody can be critical of Steve Kerr not giving Kuminga his opportunities, but I think at this point it's a little premature and a lot foolish. It's not like Kuminga's out there smoking dudes, crushing it. And again, he didn't really play the three still. I know the Warriors have those lineups where it's Moody and Payton and Kuminga, and you could make a case, all right, who's the 2, 3, and a 4? It's all kind of interchangeable when those three are out there together. But I think, if it ain't broken as far as the overall chemistry and Kuminga getting his minutes in the steady rotation that he has to this point with that bench group, I don't think there needs to be any kind of pressure to make any kind of change is what I'm getting at if you're the Warriors. Wiggins needs an opportunity to be able to work through whatever he's dealing with. And look, sometimes veteran players just get off the slow starts and then they get it going and they come alive. So, yes, it's concerning. yes, it's an issue, and if the Warriors are going to get to their ultimate goal, he's going to have to play better. But I'm just going to put it right out there, right at the beginning, right off before anybody comes in and says anything about it. I'm not considering any kind of change, and I don't think Steve Kerr's considering any kind of change because there's nobody really off the bench that's playing better, and I don't think you want to mess up the rotation and the way the bench is going. Here's the thing. If Wiggins isn't playing well, then you figure out other players that can finish games. And we've seen Kuminga be that player. We've seen Gary Payton II be that player on a couple of different occasions so far this season. And so, the Warriors have some options. They can go with Chris Paul and Kevon Looney at the end. Like, the Warriors have options. So to me, it for now can be one of those things where Wiggins could start. You can see what he's got. And if it's a night where he doesn't have it, you have multiple options as far as whether or not he can finish the game or not. And tonight, and most nights really to this point, tonight it was GP2. It's been GP2 I think 3 or 4 times. It's been Kuminga once or twice. And Wiggins has been out there at the end of a couple of games as well. But I don't think it's time to really hit the panic button on Andrew Wiggins is the long and the short of it as far as I'm concerned. All right, Wyatt in Hawaii joining us here at 888-957-9570. Hey, Wyatt, you're on Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, how's it going, JD?
I'm doing well, my man. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Remember what I said last night? If size is an issue, we got to go with the 2. And I'm happy that we executed those easy shots. But I definitely do have like a concern for Wiggins, and I just don't know. Like, I don't know if Kuminga should start to in place of him, but.
Yeah, thanks, Wyatt. Appreciate the call. No, I don't think Kuminga's played well enough to where you say he should be starting over Wiggins. And again, they don't really even play the same position. I don't. Now, look, if Kuminga was scoring efficiently and shooting the ball well, I think, all right, maybe we'd be having a conversation at that point. But I think at this point, Kuminga hasn't been really anything to write home about for the most part. But Kuminga's minutes, at least in the second halves of some of these games, he's improved in the second half off his first half minutes. But again, to me, you don't need to mess with it at this point. And the fact that you're 6-2 gives Steve Kerr an opportunity to ride it out with Wiggins. But there is going to come a point where they are going to need him. They are going to need him. And again, but now I think it's just a matter of you can not finish the game with them if somebody else is playing well, and you just kind of pick who's playing better. And tonight, the defensive lineup with Gary Payton II, I think, made the most sense. 888-957-9570. Again, Warriors win at 120-109 as the Dubs improve to 5-1 on the road, 2-1 on the current road trip, which wraps up in Denver on Wednesday. This is the 8th time, according to Elias, that the Warriors are in position or have won 5 of their first 6 road games. So, and the 6th time since 2014, 2015. So the 8th time ever, but it's the 6th time in basically the last 9 years that the Warriors have done it. All those dominant years, going back to when Steve Kerr took over, the Warriors have won a lot of road games, as he was pretty adamant in telling everybody, even the first road game of the year, going back to Sacramento, that final weekend of October. So 2-0 are the Warriors. Another bright spot, second of back-to-backs. The Warriors are 2-0 in Game 2. So 2 weeks now, the Warriors have had this Sunday, Monday back-to-back on the road. So the second of both of their back-to-backs to this point have been on the road, and the Warriors have won both of the second of the back-to-backs. They blew out the Pelicans last Monday night. They're able to win tonight and get the job done by beating the Pistons. And so the Warriors in the back-to-backs, they've swept one, and they've split the other. So 3-1 in back-to-backs and 2-0 in the second half of back-to-backs is definitely something that you like to see with both of those games, all four of them to this point on the road. Warriors going to have a home back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday against Cleveland and Minnesota. But for an older team to be able to win back-to-backs on the road, that's important stuff and a good sign. And again, I said this the other night, last night, and I think I mentioned it even on Friday. The Warriors have to they have to win when they're healthy. And for everybody to be available for the Warriors tonight and playing and healthy, and the three inactives are the three two-way players, you got to win as many games as you can, because you're not going to be healthy all year. And you're going to have to play shorthanded at different points. And so you have to maximize it. And that's something the Warriors didn't do last year. They did not win enough when they were whole, and then they had injuries and had to go in survival mode. And they were good enough last year to do that, but it's not something that I think you want to do if you're the Warriors this year. So, yeah, 6 of 9 on the road against the Pistons. The Pistons, of course, swept last year's season series. Warriors with a 37-25 fourth quarter tonight. The 37 points, the most the Warriors have scored in a fourth quarter this season. They had 35 in the win on Friday night at Oklahoma City. And the Warriors not turning the ball over a lot. And this is where I think Chris Paul's been a hell of a good influence. You go 29 assists and no turnovers over a 4-game stretch, and whatever it is, 62-6 for a season. And I think that rubs off on the rest of maybe his Warriors teammates a little bit. Just 11 turnovers for the Warriors. Not a lot of ball pressure for the Pistons despite their length. That equaled a season low in turnovers for the Warriors, matching the opening night loss to the Suns when the Warriors only had 11. And again, just Steph Curry's been absolutely phenomenal. Named the Western Conference Player of the Week earlier today for last week. He goes for 34, game high, fourth 30-point game of the season, second in the last 3 games. He's hit 7 threes in each of the last 2, and half of the 8 games this season he's been able to do it. He's made 4 3-pointers in every single game. Stephen Curry's just been absolutely spectacular, and we got to give a shout-out tonight to Kevon Looney, who played 25 minutes and was really effective in this one. 10 points, 6 boards, couple of blocks. I think he threw his weight around the best he could against the size. And Moses Moody, a career-high 3 steals. He was active in the game tonight. So a lot of different contributions for the Warriors over this game tonight to enable them to be able to get the victory. All right, final couple of minutes here before we call it a night and head toward Wednesday. Let's get to our hardest worker of the game, which is brought to you by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? Learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. And I'm giving it to Steph tonight. So many nights we try to find a player maybe on the periphery that helps the cause. A Kuminga or a Trace Jackson Davis or a Draymond Green who's always bringing it. But tonight we're going with the chef. Tonight we're going with Steph Curry. Hardest worker, second of a back-to-back, playing his 33 minutes. None of what the Warriors did well tonight holds up if Steph Curry isn't present and accounted for and available and dominant. And Steph was a game-high plus 17, pours in his 34 points, had the note from Tim Kawakami who tracked it, 26-12 from the moment he checked back in at the 8:44 mark, and the Warriors went from, maybe this game gets away and we're having a little bit of a different conversation, to, nope, the Warriors are winning this game and improving to 2-1 on the road trip and improving to 5-1 on the road, and looking forward to the finale of this trip in Denver, and really what is, I think, one of the first showdown games of the season. Should be a lot of fun when you look at the Warriors and the Nuggets going at it. The defending champion Nuggets and the last 2 teams to win NBA championships, the Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. That's going to be a fun one. Denver playing tonight as well at home against the Pelicans. They've had a home-heavy schedule to this point in the season. And you look up and Denver down to the Pelicans 76-71. That game, 8-minute mark in quarter number 3 in Denver. And so they'll have tomorrow off. The Warriors will head to Denver, and we'll see how that shakes up. It should be a fun one. Late start for that one. Games in Denver typically starting at 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, but that's going to be a 7 o'clock tip due to national television. That game's going to be on ESPN on Wednesday. So a 7 o'clock tip coming up Wednesday, Warriors and the Denver Nuggets from Denver. All right, that'll do it for tonight. I want to thank Sterling Bennett. I want to thank everybody in our San Francisco studios. I'm John Dickinson. Warriors get the win tonight. I will be back with you on Wednesday, 6 o'clock for Warriors Live as the Warriors and the Nuggets go at it. Again, from Denver, 6 o'clock start time, 7 o'clock Pacific is the tip time. Again, we'll be on at 6 right after Willard and Dibbs right here on 95.7 The Game, and then I'll be taking your phone calls at 888-957-9570. After that game goes final, we'll talk to you then. All right, Warriors get the win, 120-109. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you texting. Appreciate you calling. Everybody watching on YouTube as well. You heard it all right here in your home for Warrior basketball. It's 95.7 The Game.
Get big savings and big rewards during Pro-Vember at Lowe's. Right now, MVP's members earn 3 times the bonus points on DeWalt products.